Well, Jonathan, it's really nice to see you again and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Rodney. Likewise.
I understand congratulations are in order that you just became a partner with KPMG in the UK. Congratulations.
Brilliant. And thank you for that. It feels like a real landmark testament, I think, a lot to my team and some wonderful clients as well.
Wonderful. And speaking about clients, Jonathan, I know that an area that you practice in a lot is helping clients think about their capital structure in the countries that they do business in, because funding of ongoing operations is critically important, as COVID last year showed us. Tell me, as you talk to people about capital structure, what is it that you're talking about?
So I think this is an area that has changed really quite significantly over the years. So we've had, a wealth of legislation. I'm thinking particularly in hybrid structures, for example, first in the UK, the US, then the EU. But perhaps more importantly, earnings stripping rules, which you've had in the US for a long time, and Germany has had, but they've been socialized, if you like, across the Western world. And I think what clients are finding is it's becoming difficult to actually attain a tax deduction in their group for their external financing costs, particularly where their groups are heavily leveraged. And thinking about that in a multinational context, that is about spreading that debt burden across their operations across the world.
So it's really interesting, Jonathan. I mean, what you're talking about is legitimate external funding and just somehow finding a way to actually get credit, or a deduction for the fact that you actually have incurred this obligation to third-party banks. Does that mean that just generally you're seeing a trend of the tightening of those rules, and it's just plain getting harder to secure that legitimate deduction?
I think it is getting harder, and they are tightening. I mean, we're not just at a 30% EBITDA sort of level. That number's come down to 20 in the Netherlands. I think in the US there's consideration of a restriction to a group ratio, and the principles behind that, as established within the BEPS framework, I think were quite well thought out. The practice and the implementation of that then becomes difficult. Yes, to relate the amount of debt you're allowed in a territory by virtue of its profitability there, but actually managing that on a year-to-year basis is difficult, and that's what my clients find, particularly given existing rules, which remain in a lot of legislative areas, which I suppose restrict the circumstances in which you can change that debt level.
Well, really interesting, Jonathan. And I know we're in this environment now where there's just consistent law change all around the world. How do you tell people to think about capital structure in this ever-changing world in terms of the go forward? Because what might be thoroughly acceptable today, tomorrow the rules might just change. How do people think about that?
The starting point for me is a clear strategy on it. Knowing what you're doing from a group perspective, knowing where your key areas, your key risks might be, and that is going to be your bigger territories that you're operating in, but then the need to apply that to a local territory, local rules position. And it does need that territory by territory look, just because the rules are different and can't assume to be consistent.
Well, that's just fascinating, Jonathan. Like, it's a really timely reminder, because last year with COVID, businesses found the they needed more funding in particular jurisdictions, and to do it appropriately and consistent with the economics of their business. And so this is a fantastic reminder that just because you might have looked at it last year doesn't mean that it continues to be fit for purpose, and doesn't mean that you'll be able to obtain that plain deduction for your legitimate third-party expense.
I think that's right. And of course, the banks, the whole lending environment has come under strain as that funding need has increased. And what we've seen is perhaps some faults in the interaction between the tax rules, these EBITDA-based rules, and the practical lending.
Well, this is just a fascinating discussion, Jonathan. I certainly look forward to coming back and hearing more about how this unfolds as more and more legislation rolls out. So for now, thank you for your time. That was a fascinating discussion.
Thanks, Roger. Speak to you soon.
And congratulations again on becoming a partner with the UK firm. Thank you, Jonathan.